Hi, welcome back to Plot Twists and Puzzle Pieces. Grab your coffee, your puzzle board, or your paint by number, and settle in for another book chat. Today we're talking about The Wishing Game by Meg Shaffer. The Wishing Game follows Lucy Hart, a 26-year-old teacher's aide who has had a lonely, neglect-filled childhood. As a child, she found solace in the children's book series Clock Island by reclusive author Jack Masterson. The series gave her hope and escape when her own home life did not. In the present, Lucy works with a 7-year-old orphan, Christopher, who has lost his parents and whose future Lucy longs to secure by adopting him, but she lacks the financial stability and resources to make that happen. Unexpectedly, Jack Masterson resurfaces from a many-year writing hiatus and announces a contest. He has written a new Clock Island book, but the prize is unusual. The one and only copy of the book will be given to a winner of a game he has devised on his personal own Clock Island. The winner will have the sole rights to this book and can potentially sell it to be published or to a personal collector for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. Lucy is one of 4 lucky or desperate contestants invited to the real-life Clock Island. On the island, the competition turns into a game of riddles and personal trials, and the stakes become greater than just a prize book. Scars from their past and a longing for belonging resurfaces for each contestant. The Wishing Game is a book with many accolades. It was a Book of the Month finalist for Book of the Year in 2023, a Reader's Digest and Washington Post Best Book of the Year, and a Goodreads nominee for Reader's Favorite Fiction in 2023. The book holds a whopping 4.03 star rating on Goodreads. Wishing Game is a love letter to the transformative power of stories. Shaffer portrays storytelling not as mere escapism, but as a lifeline, a force that sustains, shapes, and redeems her characters. For Lucy Hart, the Clock Island books are more than a childhood favorite. They are her survival strategy. Growing up neglected and unseen, Lucy found in Jack Masterson's stories a safe world where goodness and courage triumphed, where lost children were found, and where imagination could rewrite the rules of reality. The books gave her what her life lacked: connection and belonging. Storytelling for her becomes a way to endure what would otherwise feel unendurable. In adulthood, Lucy still clings to stories, but not as a naive dreamer. Instead, she understands them as both comfort and challenge. The narrative of Clock Island helped her believe she was worthy of love, and that belief fuels her determination to adopt Christopher. Meanwhile, Jack Masterson, the reclusive author, embodies storytelling's more complicated side. His books saved readers like Lucy, but they also isolated him. Through Jack, Shaffer examines the storyteller's burden. What happens when your creations heal others, but leave your own wounds unaddressed? Jack's contest, the creation of a new story that plays out in real life, is both a gift and an act of atonement. It's his way of rewriting his own narrative, proving that stories can heal even their creators. Then there's Christopher, who inherits the same gift Lucy once found in books: the ability to believe. His faith in stories and in Lucy's love suggests a generational passing down of hope, the idea that what saved us can save someone else. Through these characters, Shaffer argues that storytelling is not passive, it's an act of creation, memory, and repair. It bridges the gap between who we are and who we hope to become. It transforms trauma into meaning and isolation into community. The fictional Clock Island may not be real, but its lessons about kindness and bravery and chosen family become real in the way they shape how Lucy and others live. Shaffer uses the Wishing Game to say that fiction can save people, not by changing their circumstances, but by changing their capacity to imagine something better. Stories plant the seed of belief that healing is possible, and sometimes that's all a person needs to begin. The Wishing Game occupies an unusual space between realism and fairy tale. While it includes whimsical settings and a mysterious contest reminiscent of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, its true enchantment lies in the ordinary acts of goodness that illuminate the story. Shaffer shows that wonder is not the opposite of reality, it's what happens when empathy, courage, and imagination infuse the everyday. Throughout the novel, kindness acts as a catalyst for transformation. Lucy's compassion for Christopher anchors the story's emotional core. Her love for him isn't grand or magical in a fantasy sense. It's patient, self sacrificing, and real. By choosing to care for someone who has been abandoned by the world, Lucy performs an act of creation as profound as writing a book or building a world from words. In Shaffer's view, this is the true magic, the courage to love without guarantee of reward. Jack Masterson's contest, too, becomes an act of kindness disguised as a game. What initially seems like an eccentric publicity stunt is revealed as an elaborate gesture of empathy, a way to give back to the people his stories once saved. Through Jack, Shaffer suggests that storytelling and kindness are inseparable. Both involve seeing into another person's pain and offering them a map out of it. The more Shaffer's characters open themselves to one another, the more luminous the story becomes. Jack empathizes with Lucy's hunger for belonging. Lucy understands Christopher's fear of being forgotten. Hugo, the gruff illustrator, learns to translate his grief into care. These emotional exchanges create moments of awe, not because they're grand, but because they're true and authentic. Shaffer treats empathy as a kind of shared imagination, the ability to step into another person's story. The novel invites readers to do the same, to see that wonder is born from connection, not spectacle. Each time a character chooses to understand rather than retreat, the world feels a little larger and a little brighter. If kindness and empathy are the heart of Shaffer's magic, imagination is its soul. The Clock Island books symbolize the sustaining power of imagination, its ability to offer not just escape, but vision. For Lucy, those childhood stories kept her alive, but as an adult, they teach her something deeper, that imagination can reshape reality. Shaffer uses imagination not to remove her characters from the real world, but to return them to it renewed. The contest on Clock Island blurs the line between fantasy and truth, asking each contestant to rediscover the wonder they once felt as children. In doing so, Shaffer reframes imagination as a moral act, the ability to envision hope even when life has taught you despair. By the end of the novel, the magic that lingers isn't the contest or the mystery of Jack Masterson, it's the quiet persistence of love. The moments that resonate most are small: Lucy reading to Christopher, Jack offering a second chance, Hugo learning to trust again. These are the miracles of daily life, made radiant through attention. In the Wishing Game, Shaffer redefines wonder as a state of seeing, the ability to recognize beauty in imperfection, tenderness in struggle, and redemption in brokenness. The book suggests that you don't need to escape reality to find magic, you need only to look at it differently. While The Wishing Game can be viewed as a story full of hope and empathy, the book is not without its critics. While I deeply enjoyed this book, I would be remiss to overlook the problematic relationship between Lucy and Christopher. Shaffer portrays Lucy's desire to adopt Christopher as tender and selfless, but for some readers, it verges on emotional overreach. Lucy's longing to become his parent is intertwined with her own unmet childhood needs, her wish to be chosen, loved, and protected. This raises an uncomfortable but important question. Is Lucy saving Christopher, or is she trying to save the child she once was through him? That emotional mirroring gives the novel psychological depth, but it also blurs the boundary between care and codependence. Some readers interpret Lucy's actions as a projection of her own wounds, rather than purely altruistic love. This complexity might not have been fully explored in the text, which leaves room for discomfort. Another reason this relationship has drawn critique is the tone of the novel. The Wishing Game uses a whimsical, fairy tale style to tell a story that touches on serious issues like child neglect, trauma, and the foster system. The light, hopeful tone may soften the darker realities of adoption and trauma bonding, which can feel emotionally unbalanced for readers who approach the story through a more realistic lens. In a more grounded novel, Lucy's decision to pursue adoption without stable finances or emotional support might be portrayed as risky or impulsive. In Shaffer's magical realist world, it's framed as an act of courage and love, a leap of faith that aligns with the book's fairy tale logic. This creates tension between narrative intention and reader expectation. Some see a tender depiction of chosen family, while others see a troubling simplification of complex real world issues. Schaefer is clearly interested in how adults and children can save one another. Lucy gives Christopher a home, but he gives her a renewed sense of purpose and innocence. This mutual salvation is a major theme of the book, mirrored in Jack and Hugo's surrogate father son relationship. Yet critics argue that the Lucy Christopher storyline leans too heavily on sentimentality, framing the child as a symbol of a redemption rather than a fully developed person. This trope, where a broken adult rescues a suffering child and, in doing so, heals herself, can feel emotionally manipulative when not balanced with nuance about the child's agency and trauma. Some readers wanted a deeper exploration of how adoption actually works emotionally and legally, rather than a symbolic resolution that serves Lucy's arc more than Christopher's. It's also worth noting that many readers found Lucy and Christopher's relationship heartwarming rather than problematic. They argue that Schaeffer's intent is to show that love, in its purest form, is a kind of miracle, that found families can be just as real as biological ones. Lucy's dream of giving Christopher a home is not about ownership, but about belonging, and the book's fairy tale tone invites us to view her gesture as hopeful, not troubling. Still, the mixed reactions highlight how tone and reader background shape interpretation. The Wishing Game tells a story about the transformative power of love, imagination, and second chances. Through Lucy, Christopher, Jack, and Hugo, Schaeffer reminds readers that healing rarely comes through grand gestures or magical events. It happens through small acts of kindness and courage. The novel's whimsical tone and fairy tale structure invite readers to believe in the possibility of redemption, even for those who have long felt forgotten. Yet the book's hopeful message is not without complexity. The blurred boundaries between care and dependence, fantasy and reality, make the Wishing Game as thought provoking as it is comforting. While some readers embrace its tender idealism, others question its simplicity or the ethical gray areas in its relationships. That tension is precisely what gives the story depth. It asks us to examine what it truly means to save someone and whether love alone is ever enough. The book celebrates the idea that stories themselves can be acts of salvation. They don't erase pain, but they give us the language and imagination to transform it. In Schaeffer's world, magic isn't about escaping life, it's about finding the courage to reimagine it, to write a better ending for ourselves and the people we love. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Plot Twists and Puzzle Pieces. If you enjoyed diving into today's story and want to keep unraveling more hidden meanings, character arcs, and wild twists, make sure to hit subscribe and tap the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. We'll be back next Wednesday with another deep dive into a story. We'll be chatting about The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Until then, keep connecting the clues and uncovering the pieces that make every story unforgettable. See you next week!